you you have exceeded your storage. So I had to delete some older um, streams because all of them are already on YouTube, so I don't have to do anything about it. But just kind of quick tick check, and I feel like it's a bit too high. Let's fix it. How about now? Is that better? I think that's okay, right? You know, if anything, you're just seeing how much bolding I'm getting, which is fantastic. Let's see if like on now. I just need to figure out the res because the resolution. I bet nobody can see that stuff. It's very hard, right? So let me increase maybe to 300% because that's the only way I'm gonna get this. Like right now, it's already on 150 and it's not getting where I want it to be. Okay, here's 300. How about now? Can you guys see the screen? Okay, is it visible?
Yeah, it's good.
And Abdul Samad, can you confirm? Are you seeing the screen good? He should be, right? He should be seeing it good. Okay, cool. So let me just tell you something. It's a good lesson learned, right? Yesterday I cleaned up the code, and you will notice something weird happened, Omar. When I ran code cleanup, it basically broke. It took away that alias. It thought, oh, you don't need that alias, so it broke the build, right? And I pushed C. Do you see that failed? It broke the build, right? Because it said, I don't know what this result row that you're talking about is, right? And if I go and say generate, it just didn't know. Remember how we went and said using result row equals, right? And then standard AI, data, entity intelligence, models, foundations, datas, and then data like that. For some reason, and I have no idea why that happened, but if I ran code cleanup, I'm assuming it just took it away or something. See, now it didn't. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But thank you, Greg. Thank you, Abdul. Okay, so I don't know what happened, but yesterday we read, like you and I tested this yesterday, and I
Yeah.
put it into master. Also, listen, learn, never merge, even if you build it locally. There might be something on your machine that makes it run and build, but in reality, it really doesn't on a different machine. That's the beauty about CI/CD pipelines, right? So why is this guy tripping now then? Cannot implicitly convert type. What? Oh, because this guy
It's
is
a
also broken.
it's a
Oh, you
Visual
pulled data
Studio problem basically.
Huh?
It's a Visual Studio problem basically.
It's a Visual Studio problem. It is. It is 100%. So anyway, so let me reset that nonsense that I just made. Gregory went. Well, I'm very blessed with Gregory. You know, he's a great guy. If I go into main, he basically went and fixed it. He basically cleaned it all up. Said, okay, all right, let me take care of this nonsense. So he basically went and cleaned it up. So now we have an actual clean build, I think. Yeah, there you go. And then if you run the tests, yeah, the lesson for me here is that no matter what you think is um, the system is what states, still wait for the build, still wait for the test to finish, still do that. And if you don't do that, it's just gonna get, you're gonna end up in a situation where your master branch is broken. You know, and both of you might relate to this, but some folks might be watching us, they're new in the tech industry, they just don't know. But you know, a bad master branch or main branch could have a ripple effect for days because everyone, if you're working on a large team, this could break everybody's machines. So anyway, let me rebuild this. Greg says, did you pull my fix? Yeah, if you're talking about that one PR, yeah, I merged it. So now I'm looking at main basically, and I don't know what is this new green sign. I think they mean something by this. I don't know. It means up to date. Do you see that little green sign under main? It has a meaning. Some PM somewhere thought about this and said, let's put that icon in there. I just don't remember what it is. There's no conclusive or comprehensive uh, documentation for Visual Studio as we know it today. It's just way too many things that you can't capture in one book or one video or anything like that. He said, yeah, and they are taking longer and longer to run. They shouldn't. If these tests are running proper, they should still be O of login, asymptotic time. If they're not, then something is up. See, that's this list 1 millisecond. This is the only one that says I am about 221 milliseconds. But you can still run them in parallel, and you can configure it to run in parallel and stuff like that. And then you can play sound when it anyway. All right. So the next step is to play a processing service. Just build a simple processing service. And oh, he means a build. That's right. The get builds I'm referring to. That's probably because I need to just put a bigger agent in there, Greg. Like I'm building here on an i9 24 core machine. Although that I've just discovered recently that even my graphics card, as strong as it can be, it's not good enough for this 57 craziness that I have running right now. It doesn't run at 240 megahertz or hertz. Yeah, so it's still not rendering at full capacity. Okay, friends. Omar, do you feel that there is anything else that we need to clean up before we embark on this data processing service build?
I think it's in a much better state now. Maybe we find things during the work.
Okay. All right, friends, let's get started. If we can get just things set up and get the happy path, I'm okay with that. If you are someone watching us for the first time and you're seeing this happen for the first time, pay very close attention because that's how we build every other service. So under processing, so I'm looking at services, and then there's foundations, and then there's processing, and then under processing, actually it might probably make sense if I showed people the map, right? So let me pop up the map here. I think I have it here somewhere. Or I can even just find it in the video. Gregory, would you do me the favor and just have it be in our source control because I keep building it and then deleting it and then building it and then deleting it. It's so stupid. Entity intelligence here. So this is the entity intelligence project kickoff. And then I think if we are in the right list here, let's see, I need my lists. So this is playlists, and then this is entity intelligence, and then the very last one that we had just a couple of nights ago. There it is. This is the one here. This is our final or this is the architecture as we know it. I don't know if it's visible enough for everybody here, but basically, we finished up the data service. That's this piece, and we need a data processing service. This right wing here of this implementation is what we're trying to get to. Once we're done with the data processing service, we can move up to data orchestration service. That's basically the trick here. Oh, look, I can make it a little bit bigger. Fantastic. Okay, let's do that then. Let's go on to Visual Studio. I'm gonna create a new branch. That's
Hassan,
users. Yes,
Hassan,
boss.
quick note.
Uh,
Like
uh,
this is kind of the first project I'm involved with you in the standard
yeah.
way, and I found the most complex, not complex, but confusing part of this
Mm,
whole standard thing is actually exceptions.
mm-hmm.
Maybe it is worth maybe
Hmm.
clearing out more in the documentation.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the
absolutely.
happy path. Yeah, the happy path is
The
almost is
easiest.
the easiest, right? Exception handling, the focus on it is great,
Yep.
but with all these types and like if you look at the models, most of our models are exceptions actually,
Yep. The mass
right?
majority of our models are exceptions. That's
Yeah,
true. Yep.
yeah. Like in the standard, it's not actually clarified. Like in a project, it's actually clear.
Yep.
I learned a lot much more than actually the written text.
Yep. Yep,
Yeah.
that's true. I agree. I will add a little bit more documentation in there. Just so you know, I want to press on this. This is something that Paul Wardy, you haven't met Paul yet, but he's a part of our community and he's a big brain, very big brain. He said he said, Hassan, the standard is actually extremely complex, but the community goes to extreme lengths to make sure it gets to everybody. And it is true, he's not wrong. Like, there's so many rules and so many patterns, but once you get used to it, it becomes a culture. Like, I'll tell you, Kailu learned the standard by practice. He never actually opened up the book and actually started reading it. He saw it evolve, as he's building things with me. Someone like Callum in the community, that's someone who started from the book and built all of these, different ideas around the standard, and then he started implementing and branching and doing his own thing. But I fully agree. I will add a little bit more to the standard. The one issue I really wanted to open up, and this is an extra documentation that I need to add in there. I feel bad for the people that are trying to catch up on translations because I keep changing things all the time. But the one thing that I want to kind of add an issue for in here, which is documentation. Do, document the 3 layers of abstraction. Have I talked to you about this before, Omar, or anybody for this matter? No?
No, no.
So let me just tell you this story, and then we'll get the happy path out of the way and call it a night. So there are 3 layers of abstraction that hinder the having technology reach its full potential. Like, let me ask you this question today, Omar. Let's say, for instance, that you have an amazing program or a library that you built in C Sharp, and then there's this crazy enterprise application that will change humanity forever, and it needs this one little piece of puzzle. The only problem is that this library that you built in C Sharp, and they built it in Java or C++ or Scala. What happens? The project gets slowed down and impeded dramatically. No? So we have a problem, right? We have a problem that even though in this day and age where we have abstraction, even in this day and age where we have RESTful operations and whatnot, we still haven't reached our full potential in the tech industry where people could develop a library in some language, and then there's this stateless, non-technology agnostic layer that connects any programming language to any programming language without having to call an API or call a remote server, whatever the case may be. You see how these decisions slow down our evolution as human species, because there is this one little step that we can take that will probably help implement a system that will cure cancer or detect horrible diseases, or experiment the next planet, or open up the door for the next planet that we can travel to. And the only problem is that there is technology impediment, right? This technology improvement, if this standard is truly a standard for humanity, and it's supposed to make us kind of put us back on track in terms of evolution, in terms of the technological evolution, then we need to understand the abstraction, what are the impediments that hinder us from growing in that direction. So remember, I talked to you about SFAL, right? You already know SFAL. SFAL's standardized framework abstraction library. So you can still write your own code, and you get to choose without changing your code whether you want to work with the .NET framework, with the .NET Core, with some custom .NET framework, or anything else out there, as long as it adheres to that framework. And then there is SPAL, which is Standard Provider Abstraction Library. You should be able to switch between working with Oracle to working with SQL to working with MySQL without having to change your code. The last piece, this is the one that Abdul Samad was just talking about. It's SLAL, which is the Language Abstraction Library, right? The idea here is to not allow, the differences in our languages to hinder or impede our ability to continue to evolve. and I need to talk about that. I did talk in the standard about SPAL, but I didn't talk about SFAL and SLAL. We didn't talk about any of these, and we really do, because if we can allow, imagine this, Omar, imagine this NuGet package that we publish is something that can uh, uh, um, allow people who are writing in Kotlin and Scala and Python and every other engineering team out there to benefit from it. How cool would that be? Do you see the potential? Do you see the crazy potential in this?
Yeah. I think
So,
this goes back to an idea you threw like a few days ago about changing the how services interact with each other, right? Like
yeah,
for example, if there is messaging, some kind of messaging between these libraries that independent of what they are, similar to how REST solved this issue for microservices, right?
yep.
Yeah, like
If,
maybe
if
kind of yeah.
I fully agree with you. If we change how we develop software in general into this bubbles, flying bubbles, and these bubbles basically have their dependency, purpose, and exposure layers, and they're just flying in the void, and they can send messages to each other. I think we have reached a new level of um, evolution in the tech industry. And look, man, we're sitting here like the greatest minds out there, the minds that can actually discover and solve these problems. These minds are unable to lift their heads out above the water because of the daily jobs that they have to work and the pressure of life. Like when they reach that level of maturity, they want to solve these problems. They just don't know how to find the time to solve these problems. And when they do, when they do find the time for these problems, people start telling them, "Well, what are you getting out of this?" Right? I talked to someone about this before. I said, "Well, people keep telling me, what are you getting out of this?" Right? You're like, "Well, I'm participating in something huge for the rest of us, for the rest of the industry." But then again, that's what people said to, those who tried to, uh, invent flying, those who tried to invent, electricity, those who tried, everybody told them, what are you getting out of this? Right? So this is just the door. And just so you understand, I am not a smart guy, but I'm so loud. So the smart guys would come over, and say, okay, let's fix this problem with this crazy guy then. Okay, he opened up a house. Let's come in and talk about how to solve these problems. If you haven't talked to people in our community, talk to Wardy, talk to Chris Tudutui, talk to these people, Brian Parker. They love to just sit and think about things, right? Which is amazing. Our community is amazing. Okay, enough with that. Let's go ahead and start um, this endeavor here. So I'm gonna go ahead under processing. So I have services, foundations. So this is models. We have services. We have processings. I'll just create a new folder in here, and I will call it data as. So this will be a beginning of an interface. Interface. iData processing service. By the way, there are folks in our community that went a little bit to the extreme. They will tell you every service should have the same model, even if it doesn't need to. And I understand where they're coming from. I just think that it's extreme. So just be aware that this is also a mindset that exists. People will come and say every single every single model, every single service will have its own model to reach ultimate purity in contract. I don't know what to say to that. I don't know, Kylo. What do you think about that? Like every single service, like you see this data result, instead of it propagating upstream, they say no, you're causing coupling. So every service should have its own thing. I don't know. I haven't thought too much about it, but I think it's a little bit over. The idea is not just to follow the rules, but to understand why these rules are there so we know when to break them.
I have also a note, maybe if it applies here, about using primitives.
Mm.
Like I think in the standard, primitives are fine as a model, right?
Yeah, natives and primitives are okay. Like I enumerable unlist and all that. But
Yeah.
that's not going to be the case if we achieve SFAL. If we actually have a framework abstraction, you can't have a framework model anymore. It's going to have to be an abstraction SFAL model. But please go ahead, continue.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you're going in a
Yeah. I'm drawing on the, like when we do domain-driven design, that concept of value objects, right?
mm,
Where if we have a primitive, let's say, I don't know, an idea of an entity, right?
mm,
It's actually advised to use a strongly typed ID. Like if we have, I don't know, product, it
mm,
has a GUID as an ID.
mm,
It's better to do it actually product ID, which is a kind of a type record or like struct that is,
mm,
um, the, not use the GUID itself. The reason is, let's say we have like a model of string, right?
mm, mm,
It's a primitive, but there is nothing that prevents you from passing the wrong string in the wrong order if both of them are strings, right?
right.
But if it's an object that it's strongly typed object, we can kind of enforce that the right type should be in the right place, in the right order.
Ah, I see what you're saying. So just for people who are just trying didn't catch that, Omar basically mentioned something quite wild. He's basically saying if you use primitive type, let's say you have a function called foo like this, right? And this function has two parameters, like say name, first name, last name, basically. So basic first name, last name, like that. What he's saying is that you shouldn't be using your primitive types because it doesn't guarantee the order. Like someone could put in last name in here and first name in here. What he's saying we should have something like this that says first name, just as an example, Omar, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and then something like this that says last name, like this, and then you're basically saying, no, you're not using primitives anymore. You're actually using actual specific types. You can see where my objections gonna be um, in this, right?
Your
You
objection.
see what the
Sorry.
problem.
Yeah.
You see, what do you think, Kailu? Do you see a problem in here? What's the problem in here?
If you have, well, if you have 10 parameters, are you going to create 10 classes? Really?
That's one. But also, now you're working with multiple contracts. So now your service, if you have to only pass two parameters and they have to be strongly typed, the way you described, now you're working with multiple contracts. So the service itself loses its purity and single contract kind of theme. So these are kind of conflicting patterns, but tell me what you think, Omar.
Yeah. So it's kind of useful. Again, like I'm drawing on the concept of value objects there is when maybe it's not needed for everything, it's needed for things that we need to kind of compare structurally, right? Not by reference. Uh,
Uh-huh.
like uh, it is actually common, for example, for entities in a domain to have an ID, and we can always use a GUID for that. But having it as strongly typed like this, what you did,
Uh-huh.
kind of has its values as kind of, with this example, just this example is kind of maybe it's the extreme as well.
It's a little
Right?
extreme. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you thinking something like, well, let's just look at this example here. Let's say you have a model called query or data query in here, right? Even if you do that, then you're working with two non-primitive contracts. It becomes a problem. It becomes a problem from a maintainability standpoint. By the way, I had someone at the University of UW telling me that he said your standard rules are stupid because I'm building a simple web application and I don't know why this enforcement of all these rules when I can just build the whole system in 3 files and you're asking me to write 12 or 20 files. And what I said to him, when your application starts to grow, you will get to appreciate more and more what's happening. And he mentioned something. Have you guys heard about the FizzBuzz Enterprise? It's a joke on the internet. Let me show you this. You're gonna enjoy this. So this is supposed to be an application, a Java application that basically just prints FizzBuzz, right? So engineers they have their own sense of humor. So they built they try to kind of mock how enterprise systems are overblown with classes and models and whatnot. So they started doing some craziness. Like, look, in here they started saying, oh, here's all these interfaces for the loop, solution strategy factory. They went crazy. Like, they basically took every single piece of just a simple application that will print FizzBuzz, and they turned it into some craziness in terms of the implementation, right? This is their way, some engineers' way of saying, like, some enterprise applications have these files that are not necessarily needed, right? Look at all the issues and pull requests and the stars. It's crazy, right? It's an example to say, okay, you don't have to kind of overthink things. But at the same time, sticking up to rules is a little bit different than that. You're basically trying to adhere to some patterns, and you're getting used to them, and you're training yourself on them. So as the application gets bigger and bigger, it becomes important that you hold these steady. But look, let me tell you this. I won't brush it off, because this is how all great ideas start. They start as something that's not normal or not what people follow. What I will say to you then, my dear friend, is that if you can find a way where the application could have multiple contracts internally, like we do today, while the external contracts are unified, I might actually start adapting that and make it part of the engineering standard. You see the thing what I'm saying? Like, I'm basically saying, if and only if it's true that you have a way unify between you and I in the standard 3.0, once we're ready to kind of solve all the conceptual problems around it, there is nothing called contract in the first place. There are messages going back and forth. But until we get to that point, I don't know how that's going to be. If anything, it basically makes the problem worse, because if the messages are super agnostic and they don't adhere to any contract, I don't know how we're going to solve that. But it's a very fun problem to solve, just so you understand. I'm trying to tell people, like, when I say problem, that means fun. It doesn't mean, oh, problem, like my life is hard, I need to solve this problem. No, problem in the mathematical sense. It's a fun riddle to solve. Anyway, let's write a test for this. Let's see if we can get the happy path out of the way. So this is data's. Here is data processing service tests. Gregory, you said that the retrieve was misspelled somewhere. Let's make this public partial. Um, let's add in file here. I need the dependency, so private read-only mock I data service mock private read-only I data processing service. There you go. And here's your CTOR. This dot data service mock. Data service mock equals that. And then this dot data service processing service equal new data processing service. Oh, I forgot to add the constructor, did I? Ha! So, Omar, did you know about this whole I generating the constructor thing? It's pretty cool, huh? Service. You know about this piece? It's pretty cool. Look.
Yeah.
Did you see how Visual Studio is trying to make me do this underscore thing? I think Elbic started a fire on LinkedIn. He put a post in, or oh, it was a guy from Turkey. I think it's Elbic's mentee who put that. He said, "Don't put this underscore." And oh my God, people just went crazy. Oh, what are you talking about? This is how the ASP.NET team is doing it. I was like, my man, they're just people like you know. They're not really that different. You just need to kind of really know why you're doing what you're doing. But anyway, I thought it was hilarious. Okay, so here's one, and then really we're just kind of transcending a query because this is a pass-through service. So this is the easiest one of them all. I just need a random query. So private read only, private static string, create random query, and this will be new mnemonic string. Yeah, everything is completely mnemonic string. Get value. So that's your query. I also want to kind of generate so private static filler. Oh, what's this? We never used the filler here in this project. Oh, that's hilarious. How come? What did they do? Did they put a bug in their code as well? Let's see. Object filler. No, we do have the filler. What? So I just need to kind of just keep going. Oh, because it wrote string. It wrote string instead of static. That's why. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Filler. What did we call it, Omar? Data result, right?
Yep.
So,
You need
so
to
I need
print
that guy in here. So this is data result, standard AI, data, entity intelligence, models, foundations, data.
Is it that bad if we just name the model data result? It's still data something
I don't
instead of
think it's a.
doing it. Yeah.
I would lose leap over it. Yeah, I think it's okay there. Result failure, unless Kailu, you have something against it. I don't. Um, new failure. So that
That's what we used to do.
right. So data result. Create random data result. Yeah, take it as a code rub then, Omar. I'm okay with it. Want to do it in a separate thing. Okay, so just to explain to people what I did there, I basically I'm writing a test, right? The more and more you do these things, the more it becomes second nature. You know, one of the things that people said, how are you writing the test so fast? You do it 1,000 times, you're gonna be really good at it, and then you're not gonna be thinking about it anymore. You're gonna be thinking like really TDD oriented engineer, someone who's actually um, does this for a living, and we do. So data processing service this .logic.cs, since it's the only function, I don't see mandate in there to specify the function. Like usually we do logic.retrieve whatever. We don't have to do that in here. And then that's our dependency. So what I'm gonna do here is basically just write a test. Oh, here's Nazir. How do you people improve your skills and knowledge? Do you practice learning things every day, or is it just natural? How do you improve your learning every day, Omar? What do you think?
I don't think there is natural things here. Like it's a lot of reading and learning every day.
True. What about you, Kailu? How do we improve our learning? What do we do?
You do things and then you find out problems and then you solve them. And then you keep finding more problems and you solve them.
That's actually true. So Nazir, the biggest thing that helped me and Kailu learn a lot is we just keep building these projects, and every project has a story. Every project has something to learn from. If you keep building things, like, look, you can read all the books, man, you can watch all the videos, but until you are building something, it will never be a true learning experience. And that's why we always have to be busy building something. You will never find me on a night just sitting there. I will either be writing code, talking to someone about code, or thinking about something related to code. I think you should do the same. I think it's a great idea if you do that too, Nazir. So you should give it a shot. Learning is very important in this industry, I'm trying to say. Okay, let me put in the data result here. And then I'm basically going and saying data result, random data result, create random data result. There you go. And then this is data result retrieved data result. That's your random data result here. And then data result expected data result. Watch this, Omar. We do this and then we do deep clone. Have I ever told you why we do that? Deep clone?
Yeah, you gotta make sure that the object didn't change during
Yeah.
the life cycle. Yeah.
Yep. That was Shri Hamruda. Like I don't see the pattern anymore. I just see the people that introduced the pattern, which is fantastic. Okay, so returns async, and we're basically returning retrieved data result. There you go. And then we need the actual. So this is data result, actual data result. Await this dot service. So that's our processing service. There you go. And then we want our actual should be equivalent to expected. And here's our mock. Verify that our service like this have been called only one time. And then we want to verify that nothing on this service has been called. Verify no other calls was a guy called Shimmy. Shimmy taught us this part, and whatever you are, thank you for teaching us this. This verify no other calls is a game changer, because if this service has any other calls, like let's say add data or whatever, this will catch that. Be like, hey, you never verified this call, so you can't do that.
No side effects. Yeah.
No side effects. It's wild, dude. Like this is one of the most beautiful things I've seen. I love it. Well, this method has a Billy. Let's clean that up. A little Billy. And what I mean by that is that if the definition, the header of if your code is way beyond that, I would tell people just break it apart. So when you zoom out, it looks clear like that. Just aesthetics, it's just cosmetics. So let's run this. This guy should fail and should fail for the right reasons. Come on. There you go. And it's failing because object was not, ha. So this is not a good failure. And the reason is that this data result probably has something in it that the randomizer didn't know how to generate. Let's see what the heck that is. So column data, object. It doesn't know what to do with object. So let's go back here and let's fix this real quick. So var failure equal new failure on setup on type object use, and then I can just say, I don't know, create random string or something. Create random, sure. So Alt Control Shift will select just the one word. Create random string. Create random string. Omar, do you know the difference between doing it like this versus doing it like this? Both of them are acceptable. What's the difference? You know?
Sorry, I was looking somewhere else. Can you repeat the question here?
So this is a randomizer, right?
Yeah.
So look in here, it says on this type, go ahead and generate against this object, create random string, right?
Mm-hmm.
How come I did this and not this? What's the difference?
You're just passing the reference of the function, right? Because it will just execute it itself.
Here's what we found out. We found out that we got burned about this the hard way. If you do it like this, it will generate a different value for every occurrence of an object. If we do it like this, it will generate the same value just once and apply it to every occurrence of the object.
Yeah, that's interesting because it will execute it here and use the result for everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
What is this? Neuro AI. I don't read this language. Omar, can you translate whatever Neuro AI said? I don't know what this is. Could be someone from Uzbekistan. I don't know. So, all right, let's run this one more time and see. Kylo, do you want to take the passing of this test to make it pass?
Okay.
Okay, so this here is failing for the right reasons. I'm gonna go here and say this is a fail. There you go. And while we're working on that, I'm creating a draft PR so people get to see the build as it progress, goes red, green, and so on and so forth. It's pretty cool. Here. All right, Kay, it's all yours. Processing data, Hassan. Let's see here. Entity intelligence. Here's a pull requests, and this here is processings. Retrieve data. This will be in draft, but you get to see the build as it progresses, which is pretty cool. All right, Kailu, it's all yours. We have a question from Abdus Samad. He says, what advantage does GUID has over auto increment primary key for database indexing considering storage overhead? Also, do you have any previous stream that covers database tables and schema discussions? There definitely is, but not specifically focused on that. It's probably part of the entity framework conversation. But Abdul Samad, just to understand, if you use increments, you're basically giving your attacker a way to scan your data. Do you understand what that means? That's just one part of it, right? And Omar, feel free to chime in here. What I mean by that, Abdul Samad and Kylo, I'll take the screen for a second, but you keep going in that direction. Abdul Samad, let's assume that you have a ID 1 and it's John, for instance, and ID 2 which is Jane, and ID 3 because it's incremental, right? And Janet, like this. You're basically telling your attacker, if you have just one piece of data, I can find the rest of them and I can navigate your data. But if the IDs are like this, and they're different, I mean, you'll see all kinds of different ways to generate IDs. It's harder in terms of indexing, but it's much more secure. The other problem with this is that it takes away your ability to control your database. If you let the database generate indexes and IDs for your records, then in a database migration scenario, you lose all of that. I'll give you an example. Like, let's say you said 1 is John, and 2 is Jane, and 3 is Janet, right? And you came and deleted Jane. And this is in database 1, DB1. If you go to DB2 and try to do data migration, which happens very, very often, the database will try to be smart. So it will go and say 1 is John and 2 is Janet, unless you enforce a certain rule to actually be able to modify the index. So many different problems. And all of them are solved with GUIDs. GUIDs basically solve the problem right away. It gives you a lot more control when you're doing an enterprise system and all that. Okay, so okay, this is good. Happy path is gone. All good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the validation tomorrow then. We have one session tomorrow before the end of the week. Let's do validation tomorrow. It'll be just a very straightforward string null empty or white space. And then we handle the exceptions that come out of it, and that's it. It's the easiest service in the world. It's a pass-through. There's no magic there. Orchestration will be a little bit more interesting, but that would be That would be the end of it. All right. Then that'll be the end of our stream. Thank you all for hanging out tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow. Okay.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Bye bye.
Bye.